cut all of this nonsense. Go to the loading screen, guys, for 2 seconds, and then we'll start again properly. How's that sound?
Okay.
Cut all this nonsense
Let's
out.
do it.
So, what,
All
so
right,
they're
guys.
gonna have to all listen to everything we just had all over again.
No, we'll start fresh. Don't worry. I'll make up some
It's just
lies.
for YouTube shit. Okay. So back in a second.
Yeah, this is just for YouTube.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Asylum Weekly Podcast. We haven't done this before. This is episode 66. Thank you all for joining us.
Yay.
Thank you for following through all our technical difficulties. This is just so the lovely people on YouTube, we can edit it a lot easier than having to edit all that crap that we were talking about, first of all. So, thank you for joining us. Honestly, thank you for your patience. No one is more annoyed than we are at trying to get this crap to work. I assure you. 1 week we will be nice and smooth, and it will perform a lot better. Just 1 week. We just don't know when. So keep this space. Anyway,
One day.
so yes.
It's because we try things. It's because we're brave, guys. We're brave like many other
New
podcasts. They
frontiers.
all just stick. We always try new things. We test out new things. We're always pushing the boundary, pushing the envelope here at the Asylum to great failure. You know, that's the reality. It's like we how hard can it be? This is the best way we describe it before we go 20 minutes before we go live. How hard can it be to try a whole new platform?
What
It'd be
could possibly
fine.
go wrong? No, I spent
What
all
could
weekend
possibly go
setting this shit up. I'll have you know.
I'm sure you did. I know you did. Yeah, I know you did.
Fuck you. I did.
We. I know he did. So, yeah. So, generally, like, I haven't played live, because I've been waiting to see what the overall kind of feeling is from the community for live. I'm also waiting to see if anyone goes bankrupt quickly. And do you know what this funny thing is I realized so many of these players out there have got way too much money in their bank accounts. They don't go bankrupt really, and also they're probably not playing criminals like I do. So has anyone gone bankrupt yet? Has anyone shown what
is
it
it
what
like
happens?
when I do Forza and I just don't spend a penny? It's just
We've been messing for 20 minutes, and now you want something. Do you want it?
So yeah, I haven't gone bankrupt. I haven't managed to play that much. Why has your thing changed?
Well, I'm not bankrupt. I haven't lost any money, but yeah, it's.
Well, they did.
I think you can get a lot of money quite soon.
On Max Stream, they were saying something about the fact that they've upped the prices of the ships to buy and rent. Is that?
Oh, I
that
don't
the
know
case?
that yet. I haven't looked at it. I'm also trying to find some sources on the interwebs to find the correct information, updated information about prices. But yeah.
Ship prices have gone down.
Oh.
No, because they have, but
On the ball here.
I think apparently some
We're
have.
here.
No, because Mac went and looked, and the Sabre at least went
Mac,
from
the
1.2
man
to 2.1 million. No, he was doing it on his stream. I saw it. So that I think I think over the board, most of them have gone down, but I think it's like except for the ones you want, and they've all gone up. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, that one. But to be fair, the Sabre was ridiculously underpriced.
Yeah.
And, when you looked at it, you're like, hang on a minute, how come the Sabre be one? And then what about the Avenger? Is the Avenger now cheaper, or is that still 1.5, the same price as a Cutlass?
I haven't got a list of prices, but I
Got
presume
no clue.
Yeah.
The original reclaimer price was 45 million. Current reclaimer price is 15 million.
Yeah,
Really?
So Prospector went up.
Prospector
So
went
that's it. I
up.
think
Big
some
difference.
went
So
up, some went down.
Some went up, some went up, some went down. There you go. So
Okay.
you're neither right nor wrong.
But then, like you said, I mean, it's giving us. There's obviously a lot more ships available to buy now, in game with in-game currency.
Yeah.
So it makes it so much more worthwhile giving you stuff to actually go and play, and the reason to save up money, which is some of the stuff that we've been asking for a long time. So
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, has anyone actually gone bankrupt yet, though?
No.
So has anyone? So no, because this is what I mean. Is that no one has actually? Because they still take your money if you commit crimes, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So clearly, I'm going to have to go and do the test run for this because nobody has the ball to do it. Is all I'm saying. Because like no one wants to do it. I
Well,
couldn't believe
go
it.
bankrupt.
well,
Or
as far
can
as
do
I
it.
understand, if you don't have money, you're bankrupt and you get a penalty or you're a criminal, then you will be shot. That has been said. If that's really the case, I don't know, but
'Cause
you should be shot.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, no.
Jeez.
But there's also that
Terms of
difference, you know.
service, but promoting violence of madness.
No, never. If
Many
you get a
people out there who would
you get a
quite happily
parking
agree with that
ticket,
statement.
it's quite a hefty thing to do, shooting somebody who is parking in the wrong way, you know. It's
So, so you still it's 12. It's still 12K, right? If you commit a crime, because honestly, I've only watched a few people, and I've been so busy over the weekend with family and just listening more than actually physically watching. And most people that I tend to watch at the moment, they're all care bears. Like they're off mining and flying around, and they're not really actively pursuing and taking part in real violence of any kind. I mean, even the Dark Law is pretty much just casually cruising around. He's not killing enough people, in my opinion. He needs to get his numbers up, rookie numbers at the moment. Got to bounce to pick those numbers up. Rookie numbers.
Not enough murder going on in the verse.
It's just not enough. But the thing is, he's got far too much money in the bank, though. That's the problem with him as well. He's got way too much money in the bank, so he never goes down low enough. I need somebody who's ultra violent but broke, like me, to be able to see if it works. Because I only start with 5K. Every time there's a patch, I start with 5K. That's my bank balance. So one murder, and I'll be bankrupted instantly.
okay. Well, try
So
it.
I'm going to go test it myself. Yeah, I'm going to have to test it. I was hoping
Yeah.
somebody would have tested it by now, but nope.
Well,
Zach
Epic
already
says
said yes.
you
Zach
get a
tested it.
crime log, but no fine.
So better to be broke. What I'm saying is actually probably better to be broke,
So you have
and
an
I can just
alt
go
account
muller
that gives you
everyone.
money.
No, the only problem is you won't be able to
Yeah, but
expedite.
I was going to say, I'm
That's
sure
the
you,
thing.
you can't get your ships back though, isn't it? That's I suppose going to be the problem.
You can't. But if
Well,
if you're,
not fast.
but here's the thing though. But if you've invested in, say, you've got 5 sabers and you've got 12 arrows, and you've already done you've already got everything you need in game. Persistence is a thing.
Yeah.
You just bring that bank balance right down to 0, and you just play to your heart. You know, they talk about like griefers and all the rest of it. You just come down right down to 0, and you just go out there and you just slaughter everyone, because it doesn't matter, because you've got like 12 arrows, 12 sabers, whatever,
Right,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
you can just grief to your heart's content until maybe you do eventually kind of run out. But by then you've maybe been playing for a couple of hours. You're like, yeah, I'm tired. I'll set everything on claim and I'll do it all again tomorrow.
Yeah, so basically what you do is earn a shit ton of money, buy everything, and then just go bankrupt, and you're fine.
And then
Well,
just go back.
even the claim is not an issue because that's
Sound like
basically 10 minutes or whatever.
It's
I
just
sound like
real
a
life.
Hollywood celebrity.
No, it's
I was
just
gonna
like
say,
real
sound
life.
like a Hollywood celebrity.
I've got friends who I know that they literally maxed
I
out
do.
credit cards, got something like 30, 40 grand in debt, and then went bankrupt, and then they've done it all again. So it's it's life.
There you
Well,
go.
we got a saying here in the Netherlands: you can't pluck feathers of a what was it?
A chicken?
Never mind.
A chicken? I don't know. You can't.
Yeah,
pluck
from a
feathers
chicken, but it's yeah.
It's got nothing to do with going bankrupt. But
Yeah,
right.
well, no, it's a verb, but yeah. Continue, please.
No, we want to squirm at this a little bit.
No, I want to know what this is. This is a
Yeah.
big build-up about plucking feathers off something.
Yeah, it's
I'm sure.
you can't pluck feathers of a bald chicken, something like that. You know,
Oh,
it's
okay.
you can't take money from someone
Something
who
that hasn't
doesn't
got
have any
yeah,
money.
Yeah, I get
And
that.
that's how actually people live, like what you said, miserable,
Yeah.
taking a credit card, and yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because the whole point, especially in the UK, is meant to be like if you max out credit cards and then you declare yourself bankrupt, like you're not supposed to be able to get more money and more credit cards to keep doing the same thing again. But I got a feeling there's like a time limit on it, so that once
It's
you've
a time
waited like
limit.
a couple of years, you
It's
can
a
do it all
time
again.
limit.
Which means why?
Yeah.
Why would anyone not do it? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, it's usually the embarrassing moment of when the bailiffs turn up, knock on the door, and all your neighbors are watching all your shit getting pulled out of your house, your kids crying, your wife's looking at you going, I'm leaving your ass. And then those kind of things tend to happen. That's probably one of the reasons that it's not a good thing, generally. Although that could be TV.
Tune into the stream team for
But
tricks and tricks. Oh, I just mean Zach. Yeah. Pretty much it.
Pretty much it. Yeah, so okay, so I've already kind of like figured out how I'm going to play Star Citizen 2.6 for the foreseeable future. Bankrupt. Broke ass. No. Unfortunately, I don't have enough ships, so I'm going to have to. I mean, again, it comes back to that whole kind of like, if you're an org, you need to have people who are going to make you a shit ton of money in the game, and then who you protect their asses. But then you could if you can generate enough funds between you and give enough funds spread out between everybody, you can get everybody into that similar situation where everyone's got lots of gear, lots of ships, lots of weapons. Everyone's, you're fully stockpiled to go out and go do some stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see how expensive everything is and how that type of gameplay, how costly, here's an example. In Mad Max, the new one, Fury Road, there's a guy who's like the bullet person. There's a ledger, and there's a guy who's obviously keeping track of everything that they're spending, how much gasoline they're spending, how much bullets they're spending. He's basically, and he talks about how, the longer this jaunt to try and get his women back is costing them, you know what I mean? And he's just, you're keeping track of that. And it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they're, if in some of the orgs and stuff, if that's going to be a thing, keeping tabs, if it becomes very expensive, if there's going to be people kind of going, okay, this month we spent this much on, these ships, blah, 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 ammo, weapons, guns, torpedoes, you're budgeted, all the super nerds will be like, especially if you're an organizations, like how much money will you give to your torpedo crew to buy torpedoes, because those size 9s are supposedly going to become very, very expensive, and so on and so on.
And then you've got like pilots that are just claiming all the money because they can't land their ships properly. It's like, how many times do you bail someone out from keeps crashing their ship?
Yeah.
It's like,
well, I think they're going to create a proper accounting log where the organization members can see who spent what and on what kind of stuff. And most games have it right now, the MMOs, that you really see who spends what. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and also if you think about it, there might be instances where you might take pot shots at people, but also though, if you're a biggish group of players all together and you see a target and you scan it and you go, no, not worth it. It's going to cost us more in ammo, more in resources than what we're going to get back from what we're hitting. So on you go. And that will be the interesting thing as well, is if you're a cargo hauler, will you be able to figure out how much is, like, you're not such a juicy target but you can still make a profit? Do you know what I mean? That'll be really interesting to see. So I could say, generally you're always going to be at risk of people just griefing you, but then if you're fighting off against people who are very organized and want to make as much money in the game as possible without making a loss, that's where it'll get really the strategic part of the gameplay will be really interesting to see if you can figure out, okay, if I hold this much goods and this type of goods, I'll make money. They won't necessarily. It's not in their interest to kill me, because it's going to cost them more to bring me down, especially if you're a good pilot and you can dodge a couple of missiles or all that stuff. They'd just be like, oh, do you know what, that's madness again, he's swinging past in his freaking freelancer, just let him go. It's just a waste of time. We will it's a waste of time, we won't be able to catch him, or it's such a waste of time.
There's definitely, I mean, that's going to happen regardless of money and stuff anyway, isn't it? It's like there's certain pilots that they've got the reputation or whatever, and you're going to be like, well, I'm like, especially for like the kind of career path I want to do, the combat side of it's probably going to be a lot less, and I'm probably going to invest more in being able to escape and think, no, sod this and get out of it, rather than sit there and attack everything that comes at me. And I think you're going to get that anyway. So that it's like you said, people are going to get a reputation, and then it's the same with the cargo haulers. It's like, well, I've got this much cargo. Do I risk having a fight with this much cargo, or do I just want to go to the end and deliver it and get my money for it? And I suppose that's kind of going to be the same balance, and whether you take an easy route or you take a hard route to where you want to go and sell your goods as well. Do you pay for an escort? Like everything, it's kind of, I think Eve does it a lot, doesn't it? Because everyone says about Eve is big spreadsheet online and working out values and costs and everything. So I suppose there is going to be a huge part of that where looking at risks and balances and whether like doing illegal goods is worth it, whether you're going to pay for an escort or you think, oh, you can do this quick run on your own. Then there's like the insurance, whether you're going to insure your cargo or not. So yeah, money is going to be a big play in how people react and stuff, and it's going to be interesting to kind of see how orgs handle that as well. Like you said, the distribution of it and keeping track on what everybody's using and things like that as well. Because
yeah, I mean, it's a big thing. It will be a big thing. It will be. I mean, it's already kind of already started to be a big thing, but we'll see how much more of a big thing it is as we go along. But with the purchasing of ships, that's, I mean, it'd be interesting to see. With the renting's not in yet, is it?
No, that's 3.7. Yeah.
So that's going to be
you can
interesting.
buy before renting.
Yeah, we can buy before renting. But I'm okay. It seems a bit strange that we would get buying, and we've barely only just got all the ships in to buy.
Yeah,
I haven't even really had that much time to test it, and then they're already dropping in renting so soon. It seems like you'd have thought they'd have wanting to flesh it out a little bit more, you know what I mean, to get through see what people can afford and buy. And
well, fleshing out is not really a CIG thing, I think.
fleshing out now, that's true. That is true.
No, they're doing a lot of polish on art, but fleshing out mechanics,
I kind of expected renting to come first, but the only thing I can think of is making you own a ship is easier, because you don't have that hassle of setting a time limit on how long you've got it for and everything else, whereas buying a ship, it's like you own it or you don't own it sort of thing. So I can kind of presume that's why.
We'll keep the flashing to a minimum, please, chat. What you do in your own time, I don't judge.
With your flashlight.
You know what? I was watching Salty Mike. Well, I say watching. I was listening to him whilst I was painting today. And for anyone who doesn't know who Salty Mike is, that's ex Mike Rod /
Twerk.
AKA Twerk 17, or whatever, you know. Yeah, what was interesting is that he was picking up illicit goods. I mean, besides getting salty about things, he was picking up illicit goods and he was trying to sell them. And what was really interesting is like, if you're like he was saying how difficult like it was to know where to sell them generally, like where to sell the different illegal goods. He didn't really know where to, and it's quite interesting because I was like, it was kind of making what realistically is described as an easy job. So the idea of being a drug dealer or a criminal is supposed to be generally on the whole easy, but it's meant to, easy money. It's never easy money, I grant it, but it's meant to be. Well, it's
money,
meant
but
to
not
be easy money.
Easy. Yeah,
No, it's dangerous money. It's dangerous money. Do you know what I mean? It's like easy in the sense like you could go, it's not like doing a day job. You sell this to this person, they give you a shit ton of money for it.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I know
like,
what
that's
you
the
mean,
kind of, you know what I'm trying to say? And so what he was finding was that it was not easy. It was like it was quite hard. It was pretty hard to get them. Then it was pretty hard to get rid of them and to distribute it. And it was like, but it did make you good money. But it was whereas it was probably exactly the same with normal goods. If not anything, it was easier because you didn't have anyone scanning you. So it was actually doing the regular job was easy and making not as much money, but it was making goodish money. But it was like in my head, I was like, surely if it was meant to be more realistic, maybe it should be easier to sell the illicit goods.
Well, there's actually a topic on Spectrum right now, posted by Bayer of Red, who says that it's actually on purpose that the black market is difficult to find. So they made it actually a bit of a game to find the correct location for the correct commodity that you want to turn in. But that's matter of time, I think.
They made it a game to do that.
Yeah,
made it difficult. What a surprise.
That's my thought. But yeah, they did it on purpose.
But I mean, to be honest though, I get that. Like, it's only going to be difficult when you first start doing it and it's the same if you were selling drugs, because like I know all about selling drugs around here. you don't know where you're going to sell them, do you? You have to find your street corners that you know where people are going to buy them. You have to find out. You have to source buyers and stuff like that. You can't just go out there and start selling stuff. So it's like it's
drugs,
and if it was, but the whole point is meant to be that if it was that open and that obvious, then there would be police there constantly, and you wouldn't be able to shift those illicit goods. So it's like you're not supposed to know where it is. It's not meant to be a big advertising sign saying, "Oh yeah, come and get your drugs here because this is the best place to sell them."
Exactly.
What? Have you ever been to Camden? It's generally, I think the first thing I got offered was marijuana the minute I walked out the door of Camden. Now, it could have been an undercover cop trying to catch me. True. Perfectly possible. But the dude was there like every day, kind of like trying to sell me stuff, like literally on the corner.
It's just marijuana.
Just marijuana. But, you know, but it kind of
talking.
And you go to any park.
Yeah, but you're not talking about. But the reality is, you're not talking about shifting a couple of cigs. It's not. You're not like when you're doing a cargo run of illicit drugs. You're not going to
valid.
Otherwise, you could load up your ship with a crate full of.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm thinking too small. I'm not thinking like Johnny Depp in the movie Blow, like when he's kind of like Pablo Escobar meets Pablo Escobar, and he's shifting, a couple kilos, couple tens of kilos, whatever. Like I shift. Yeah, that. Okay, I can see that now. I can see that point now. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. Like if you had a big van full of that stuff just sitting in the park.
You probably
get in trouble.
You probably could. Maybe that'll be a mechanic that comes in. If you've got a small amount, you could probably deal to a few people, but you're not going to.
Worst drug dealer in history, right?
He's got like a freelancer maxed to the brim full of drugs, and he's sitting on someone's doorstep selling one packet as they go out. Do you want a packet? Do you want this? Do you want these pills? No. Come back.
Door to door service.
Please.
I'm offering a door to door service like Milkman. I'm on an electric float. Just dropping them off for people's knocking on the door. It's like a salesman. Next house.
Raking in the cash as he asks, like.
The worst drug dealer.
And like
in
anything
history.
else, any drug dealer, the one that's on the side of the street selling you it is not the rich fucker that's rolling around in cash. Let's face it. The one
exactly.
that you don't see them as they selling on the street and then get into their Ferrari and drive away. No, they're on the bottom of the food chain selling you scraps that they've got.
5 others above him.
This is true. Okay. Well, we established that Madness is talking out of his ass in that entire section, which was great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Didn't think about this entirely at all.
That's what I'm here for.
We burnt 20 minutes on that topic, which is perfect. That's what it's all about. Of discovering that Madness is a terrible drug dealer, never going to go anywhere.
It's because here at the Asylum we like to cover all bases and let you know what some people. He just really he knew he just likes playing devil advocate and saying, "Oh, this is the other way of thinking about it." The wrong way, but it's the other way of thinking about it.
No, truthfully, I didn't really flesh out at all. I completely fucked that one right up. Legitimately, I was not thinking properly, but I was thinking about like, is it hard and easy? Like, is it easy enough? Like a part of me was like genuinely like, but then I was like, well, actually, I think now you mention it, now you describe it, think of like, kilos, massive drug, like how do you shift that kind of thing? Then
I think Breaking Bad, where he has a whole system of fake chicken. Like, that's where the chicken plucking come in from. It's Buck's drug dealing ring.
It's finger licking good. Yeah, okay.
Better Call Saul.
Okay. So, but then again, I'm going to be honest. Like, I want them to then give you your money in cash. In massive wadges of cash. So no longer, it doesn't go into your bank balance. You get it in actual money.
They did say that they were going to do
Chris Roberts' face on it.
Yeah, they did say they were going to do a different currency that you potentially could use. So you've got like pirate type of currency that you can use that wouldn't because, like you said, you don't want to be wanted and then someone just robs all your money naturally. So I did think that was something that was one of the ATVs a while back. It was something they discussed, and they said that they were looking at different type of currencies, especially for black market. And if you having, because like the whole point is, I think if you're going to play like the pirate ideas, oh dear God, Zach, if you're going to play the pirate ideas, like the idea of them is that they're not going to go into lawful space at all because your bounty is going to constantly be too high because you're going to constantly be wanted. So you kind of need a whole economy separately from the illegal side of things. And so, I think that's kind of what they're going for eventually.
Yeah. Kills like, stop thinking like a user and more like a dealer. Of course, it's a regular occurrence in my house. No, yeah, I want to have that like freelancer just full with money. Do you know what I mean? Like just like actual money, like all wrapped up in plastic bags and like all there, right? So like currently, obviously, you get it with the drugs kind of thing in there, but have it all like with money, and then you could have like pictures of you like lying on it, like, you know, and kind of like, and then you like if you get robbed or your ship blows up, like all that money is
'Cause you haven't put it in the
gone. Yeah, because you haven't cashed it. That would be so cool.
I'm just seeing you in an 890 jump, drugs spilling out all over the place, the swimming pool bit just full up with money instead, and you're just there with your dressing gown and your cigar. Yeah, this is how we live on the
lighting
party
your
boat.
cigar with dollar bill,
Yeah, just like. Yeah, no, for sure. Who doesn't want that? That would be awesome. No, no, I mean, the reality is mine wouldn't be like that. It would be, I would be constantly watching my 890 blow up, and I'd be like, no, as all my money just goes up, gets destroyed. Okay, enough on that topic. That's will get us terms of service heavily. Enough on drugs.
Yeah, do the ATMs actually work? I thought they were just meant to be relics of the past. I think that's why they're there.
I hope that they are relics.
I think that's what they said, that they're just actually relics. They're not meant to be usable.
Why would we use them anyway?
You know,
in that time.
Can we get it in gold? Change my mind. Can we get like kind of like gold bars, like platinum?
You wouldn't
like,
be able to take off.
like the Quark, like then Quark and all those guys, you know, with all the gold, like the platinum bars, or like in kind of John Wick, where they have like a gold, yeah, that'd be sick. Like under, you know, yes, okay, I'm sure they'll do it. It's gonna be cool.
Your Beatles won't be able to take off.
Oh god,
too heavy.
Yeah,
too heavy.
Have they improved the VTOLs at all for live? I mean, I have heard less. I think, like all things, people are just starting to just kind of grin and, you know, bite the pillow, as it were, and just kind of just bear with it. You know, it's just like, yeah, okay, this is just going to happen, and we'll bite the pillow and deal with it for now.
I think it's partly that, and I think it's partly that people are learning how to actually fly the ship. I think people were so used to the old way of flying and not really thinking about it. And now if you take your time and actually look at what you're doing, people aren't finding it so difficult to land as they were before. I mean, I saw, like I said, I was watching Max stream earlier, and he landed a Connie, and it was no problem. He just brought it over the landing pad, got control of it so it wasn't going back, and then the whole idea, I think people keep trying to look down to see where they're going. And they said right from the start, the whole idea is you're a helicopter. You just go down and up. You strafe down and up. You don't look down. You just strafe down. And then obviously he knows that when the front of the Connie is a certain distance away from the stuff in front of him, that you're in line with the landing pad. And he just went down, no problem at all. So I think it's kind of a little bit of, there's probably tweaking needed, definitely. But I also think it's people not understanding the mechanic part of it.
Well, it's also what you use, because I don't use VTOL at all with landing. I just use my strafe forward, backward, left, right, up and down. That's it.
But the VTOL kicks in anyway.
Well, yeah, it kicks in, but I don't have to counteract like, okay, I'm moving forward like a helicopter. I stop and I have to...
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're already flat.
Right, yeah.
Before it kicks in, yeah.
So I keep it flat and just strafe. And that works best for me, but yeah.
Well, that is, I mean, that's what they were trying to replicate. Like when you see sci-fi films and everything, that's what it is. The ships come in, they get to the spot, and then they go down, then they go up, and then they take off and move. That's that, and that's exactly what Carlson said that he was trying to do, to replicate sci-fi movies where you see the ships come in, they just go straight down, straight back up, and then off they go. And I think that's pretty much all you got to do. I'm saying it. This is someone that couldn't land normally anyway, so I need to actually get on and try doing it. But technically, I mean, I saw someone on Facebook put a diagram up, and I don't know who it was, but they put what they thought VTOL was going to do, and then what it actually does. And this was, I think, is where the problem is, because what they thought it was going to do, I was just looking at the diagram, going, I don't understand why you thought it was going to do that, and B, why just what you're trying to represent. It was something like if he puts his nose down, they imagined that the ship was automatically going to pull back on itself so that it wouldn't go forward. I don't know. Yeah, like so to stop itself going forward. I don't know. It was a really weird diagram, and I just looked thinking, if that's what a lot of people are thinking, then I can understand why they crash it.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? I think a lot of people think that those thrusters do this all the time. They move and adjust to you. So when you go forward, those VTOL thrusters move forward to stop you from going. But the reality is they just stay exactly there, and you lean forward, and they just go, "Hey, we're going further forward."
Yeah.
You know, they don't compensate for us. You know, they're not like trying to fix our flights. They're literally.
I think
just stuck.
Yeah, you're probably right, because originally when they said the little maneuverable thrusters around the ship, that's supposed to be automatically working out, you know, the amount of thrust it gives, so when you turn the ship, it can turn the ship. So maybe that's what they thought the VTOL was going to do. It's automatically going to work out the backward thrust if you start facing forwards, which clearly it doesn't. But
no, maybe it will do in the future. Maybe there's something that they'll look into giving a little bit more, especially on the ones that move. You know, like a little bit more movement, just to try and stop you from going just to help you control your movements a bit more. But if you go too much, then they're literally just back to what they had before. You know, if you think about it, if it goes to the point where the thrusters are just doing everything, then you are literally just back to what we had before. Really, just with bigger just with VTOL thrusters rather than the little ones. I don't know how that would be any different in my head. I mean, I'm sure chat will probably correct me, but.
Yeah, Angel's saying that people are like, they ask for the most frustrating thing, and people are saying the hover mechanic. But that's what I'm saying. If you, and this goes back to something we discussed on one of the other shows, is that when you're so used to flying a certain way, and this is why like Madness was so used to 2.6 and they changed things, you've got it almost in your muscle memory how to land and everything else and how to fly, and then they changed that, and you've got to learn it again. People aren't happy with that. And then on top of that, it's like if you don't understand the mechanic, which clearly some people weren't understanding it, that it's meant to be more like a helicopter. I mean, I've seen now a spurt of tutorial videos on how to land. So there's obviously some miscommunication or people not quite understanding how this system works. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect, and I'm not saying that that's why everybody hates it. Maybe people still will hate it. But I think you do sometimes have to give something a bit of time to learn and everything else. It's not just when you completely change something and you're not used to it, you will feel like it's wrong.
Yeah. And be honest, when are you kicking in the VTOL? That's when you're gonna land, when you're gonna take off, that's when you're gonna mine. Probably the miners are the ones that are maybe having the biggest issues with that. I haven't mined yet, but those are the ones who are having the VTOL to the fullest, the experience of VTOL. For the rest, we're just flying at certain speeds where VTOL doesn't kick in. So it's just how I look at it, such a tiny part of the whole game. And people think it's annoying, okay, but they need to invest more time in it. That's my opinion.
Wow, so interesting to see. Spectrum is just a cesspit, honestly. I'm telling you, it is literally. I've said this before. I describe this, and I think I'm going to stick with this 100%. It is Michael Jackson's Wonderland. It is freaky and just full of weirdos. It is not a good place to be, and I'm just like, why I'm always posting in there. No, I mean, let's face it. Like, I just really like the first things 30 only. I mean, like if you think about it, 2 million people, how many hundreds of thousands of people play this game live, all the rest of it, blah 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 blah. It's got 36 ticks. 36. That's all it has is 36 ticks. That's nothing. That's like the tiniest blip in terms of actual probably people. So, and somehow this is an important thing. Let's face it, 3.6 is terrible, and it's got like 36 upvotes, and then they talk about the hover mode, and then you, of course, you get the person saying it sucks, and then you get the other person coming and say, well, you know, just get good, you know, I learned to adapt. Us people in PTU have adapt, you know, and then the other person says you're a dick, and then the other one, and it's just like, oh, it goes on. It's literally painful to read half of this shit, you know.
I'm
you
just
know, it's
going to
just
say I pulled up the Spectrum that Angel was talking about, and I can see
Yeah,
that.
that's what
So
I'm
there's
looking at.
lots of threads. There's tons of threads of like, which is like, it's almost like asking for a cesspool. The space feedback flex, most irritating bug. most frustrating gameplay mechanic, worst ship gameplay features. So it's all a load of but anyway, so let's go to the most frustrating mechanic as you was talking about. Now this is, I only got a very quick glance as you said this link, and already I saw about pretty much, if you actually read this thread, it would say everything about the game, because the first one on here is missiles. Then people have replied hover mode. Then the second one on there is quantum travel.
Yeah.
And then the next one is hover mode. And so that's already 3 different things. Quantum drive experience.
Quantum drive.
Ship combat, there's another one. So like it's easier to ask what's good about Star Citizen if you're going to take these into account, because they've literally, the speed of animations, there's literally highlighting everything. I mean,
sounds like the game, to be honest, sucks.
Balls, and this is kind of what we talked about last week in terms of listening to feedback and not listening to feedback. I mean, if you went through this thread and read it, like as devs, like, what do you do? What's the most frustrating feature? That's a really hard 2 words to say together. And they're literally listing everything. Interdiction.
I think it's not the right moment to ask this to us.
Advocacy.
Well, do you know what's interesting is, do you know what's really interesting, that what I will say is that one of the biggest things on here, which is Whitesnake, who is he's considered, within the PvP is quite, he's pretty sound in his thinking. I don't always agree with him, but you don't have to always agree with everyone. But generally on the whole, I like the way he constructs things. It's generally very well thought out, and he offers incredibly good constructive feedback that you can really break down. He's generally one of those people who actually, if you actually read through it, is quite logical. Now, again, like I said, I don't always agree with him, but his feedback is about missiles. Talking about like choosing and buying missiles is nonsensical, which I agree. I think actually buying a lot of stuff is very, very. Again, it all comes back to the fact that information is so balancing and web page information, stats. There's so much stuff. It's so. Like I agree with, but in a way, asking these questions now is such a waste of time. You should really be asking this stuff when you're closer to beta. Do you know what I mean? Really, honestly. Yeah. You should just figure out what you want. CIG, you guys are spending way too much time maybe listening to us lot. Just stick to what you think you was gonna do right now. Get yourself to beta or get closer to beta, and then ask us a bit more how things are kind of playing out. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like. You're seriously, you will be going around and around and around on a merry-go-round forever if you keep at this.
Look at the UI.
But again, this is what we talked about, because in the fact that you're asking for feedback on the hover mode or the landing when we haven't got all the stuff in the game with the ship HUD telling you which angle that your ship's at and everything else. There's no point getting feedback on that feature. It's like getting feedback on combat, but not actually having any weapons in the game. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, can you give us feedback on combat, but we're only going to give you all one gun. It's going to be shit.
Yeah,
it's pointless asking people when they're installing things in. I mean, you could argue more that why are you putting features in this order if it's not ready? So I don't know.
I mean, like the feedback that Whitesnake gives back I think is excellent for them, because it actually breaks down. I think he breaks down, it breaks down exactly what he thinks, and is very clear on why he thinks things are. And I think that's a really, really good example of a well-constructed message for CIG to use. And if everyone did that, it would be freaking amazing. CIG would actually probably be like, woohoo, that's really good. But at the same time, I sometimes do think that all this crap is a bit of a peace offering, a piecemeal. Just kind of like, here you go, guys. Maybe they are just completely just like here's the bin.
Yeah.
What do they sound Spectrum?
It could easily be
Shredder.
Like this is the vent box, but we're not actually listening to you. It could well be.
It could be.
Could be. Just so that you feel like you've got an outlet to tell them how you feel.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're listening to you.
And this is open development, and the whole point of it was, fair enough. But a part of me is like, I just look at it as Spectrum and go, just if I was at CIG, I'd just be like, where's the shredder? Just shred most of it. You know what I mean? It'd be a couple of people be like, yeah, okay, that's generally pretty good. But then just, Anyway, let's just...
let's try and get away from
Wonderland.
A little bit of salt for a moment. We are going to talk about the UI, but we'll do that in a bit, because I think that might be a little bit salty as well. So we're going. We'll do a nice what we like to call the shit sandwich, which is you start off with the crap news, then you have the lovely filling that's nice to talk about, and then you wrap it up. No, it's supposed to be the other way around actually. But I've got like the opposite shit sandwich. It's like generally
Shit sandwich.
what
You mean you got a burger?
Yeah, but what they're
the
saying
burger.
is what they're normally supposed to do is you're supposed to give
Salty
someone
burger.
some good news. Then you
Yeah.
tell them that you're going to fire them, and then you give them a bit
Yeah.
more good news at the end so that it sweetens it a little bit. But we're going to go
Yeah,
the other way.
yeah.
We're going to do a bit of salt. Then we're going to talk about something that's okay, maybe. And then we're going to go
curing
and
the meat.
sprinkle it off with some
We're
more
curing
salt
the
on the
meat.
other side.
We're curing it. It's cured meat, people. It's cured meat. That's what it is. It's salty, cured, and it still tastes good at the end.
Thanks for mentioning food. Oh, burger.
Okay.
Steak.
I had a beautiful steak
Pork,
actually before we came
pork.
on. I had a beautiful steak with chunky chips and barbecue sauce. It was delicious.
Sweet potato.
Delicious.
Sweet potato chunky chips. Now that's where it's
I
at.
do.
That's
I
where
like
it's at
sweet
now.
potato chips, but not. I can't eat too many sweet potatoes. I
But that's
can eat
kind of
more
good though, because you
normal
don't need
ones.
to eat too many. It's good for you.
True.
That way. And it's also
That's
counts as
probably
part of
true.
your 5 a day as well, so it's better than potatoes.
Yes, because it's got higher fiber content, right?
It's not just that. I think it's what it counts as a different thing to a potato. So the nutrients it's got inside it counts as part of your, like a veg, part of your 5 a day, like a carrot and stuff like that.
So if you mixed normal potatoes and sweet potatoes, does that count as 2 a day?
No, because potatoes don't count as one of your day.
See, I think that's wrong.
But they don't.
I think they need to change it up. I think that's wrong.
If you
Clearly,
mix,
we're gonna have a
so
chat.
I did sweet potato
Potatoes
and
should count
carrot
as one a
fritter.
day.
And so that counts as 2 a your day. So I put sweet potato and carrot in together, and then made like a nice sweet potato fritter.
It's got carbs in it. The skin, if you make it like a jacket potatoes, all that beautiful nutrients in the skin probably as well. I don't understand how that doesn't count as one a day. But anyway, that's for the after hours topic of conversation. Talk about food.
If someone else had mentioned it in chat, and that's it, then you have to go down the food aisle. It's like going to the supermarket. We're down the food aisle now.
We are down the food aisle. Oh, actually, do you know what? Before we leave on the veto, I just was because my train of thought. I was thinking about this as well the other day, and people were talking about how getting good and all the rest. And you were just saying like people who've been practicing with VTOL, maybe getting used to it. Like I would say the same thing with again, I come back to combat again and aim assist and all the rest of it. It's like there's a shining example. It's like people were actually forced to have to learn it and forced to get good with it. Because what happens? They learn and they kind of get good with it.
Good.
They get good.
But
They don't maybe not get better, but they get pretty good at it.
The problem I have with that in terms of the flight mechanic though is like I get having some learning, and normally what you want it to be is on a scale, so that the more you learn, the better you can be. That sounds stupid, but like as in, I don't know, like if there's a challenge, you can land quicker because you've learned how to fly it. But it still needs to be easy enough that the very first person and the very first time you get in your ship, you can take off. If you're crashing your ship the very first time you try to take off and land, that's not good mechanics. That's not good for the game.
No.
That's not good for a new experience. I wouldn't.
Well, it depends what type of game you're making, doesn't it? Because if you're playing DS, whatever it is, those flight simulator game, if you take off, you can't expect to just take off in an aircraft and take off.
Then
You're
we're
going to crash it. That's a
We're
hard
talking about real simulator stuff, and this
isn't that though. Is
But again,
it?
I think that's the problem we've got. Is there's a huge, great number of people who play Star Citizen who are all about fidelity, realism, and simulator. So they're like, why have we got? Why have we? Yeah, I know. Well, you can say that, but then like, why have we got like high fidelity planets and moons with nothing on them that look like real life moons? And
because we don't have the AI yet.
That was the other thing I was going to talk about.
Well, we can talk about, but like, why we got all this realistic kind of everything is all about realism, and they talk about like justifications for the flight, everything, and it's all based on as much realism and simulation as possible. So I know they talk about fun, take it to realism, and then bring it back to fun, but it's like it does feel like sometimes they still keep pushing it more and more into the simulation category and less into the fun category. Everyone talks about it, fun. It's a meme now. You know what I mean? It's like people talk about it. Oh, fun detected. You know what I mean? It's like they're not allowed to have fun in Star Citizen, and which is kind of goes against everything that they talk about. Or Disco talks about, take it to real, bring it back to fun. It's like, when do you ever bring it back to fun? It always seems to go the other way. And so, yeah, sorry, that's what I'm meaning. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like, I hear what you're saying, but I do think that the game gets more and more simulation based these days. It seems to be that, and there's a lot of people that in the world of Star Citizen who like really want that. and keep saying it's fine. Whereas
Yeah,
they're
but
not even
there's
that fun.
also the other part of the people that don't want it too much simulator-like, and not everybody is
Sure, I'm one of them. I don't
shouting
want
out like, "Oh, I don't want that." And
I'm a
So, yeah,
special snowflake.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, no, again, this is that whole, it comes back to that whole what type of game are we building? And then it's the whole vagueness sometimes still starts, this trying to capture everybody so they capture all the money. You know what I mean?
But I
We
do
capture all the money.
exactly. I do sometimes feel though that they don't know what they're building. We go around in circles. When they talk to them, it's like it seems like they're going down one path, then all of a sudden it changes. It's like they don't necessarily know. Well, they did say though, and this is one thing that, like you said, that just said about Lando saying that they make it a certain way and bring it back. That's supposed to be the point. It's supposed to be where they make it hard and then they bring it back to the fun level. So I presume the VTOL introduction is the hard part, and then they'll rope it back in again, so it's a little bit more fun, hopefully.
yeah. Well, they know on high level what they want to create, but that's not where the problem lies. It's deeper below. It's like on micromanagement level.
Again, it comes back to that as well. Like, what do you class as fun versus what I class as fun? Because I class fun standing there on the pad watching all these people struggling to fly their ships. It's hilarious. You know what I mean? That's fun. Watching them. I can record them all day long. Like literally sat there with binoculars going, I don't even need to play this game. I just sit here and just watch fails all day long. It's like a fail reel, like watching, I think it was Detox, like trying to put the ballista into the caterpillar was absolutely hilarious. He posted the tweet actually out earlier, and they had the caterpillar. I don't know if it was desync or whatever, but they managed to get the ballista. The idea is you can get a ballista into it's nothing. You can't get a ballista into any in-game, but supposedly the caterpillar it can fit, and so they tried to get it in. And then literally, just the shit obviously then gets knocked out of sync. So he's nice with the VTOL. He's kept it flat, but as soon as it's taken a hit, he's out. And as soon as he goes out, it's just, I wonder if has anyone got the link? Like, has anyone got the link for There's brilliant video. It's so funny. And then it just goes out. But what's brilliant is the ending, because it does actually blow up. It goes way
as it
out,
goes down,
crashes on the ground, and then it flips upside down. The caterpillar in the distance, and then all you see is it explodes. Because I was like, it's not going to blow up, and then I was like, oh no, yep, it did blow up. And Detox's face is perfect. And his reaction is just like, he does such a British. He goes like, oh yeah. Whoops, that didn't work. But yeah, like no. So for me, like for some people, that's can be quite, maybe sadistically fun.
Yeah, you will never satisfy everybody. So that's
Now we can talk about the ballista.
Yes, teed it up beautifully. The ballista.
Has the ballista, baby. Because no one's done that joke yet. I did that for Des. That's all.
So it has a turret. It's got 2 size 7s and 7 size 5s or something like that in there, or 5 size 5s. I don't know exactly how many it's got.
Okay, so we can have a look on the page. I've got it all set up ready for it. So
it's
basically got a great big, massive missile launcher on the back, and then it's got a turret in the middle. The turret has 2 size 2 guns on it, Gatling ballistas.
2 size 2 guns on that thing.
Yeah. And dual size 2 ballistic Gatling guns. And
multi-benefit strafes. Can you change the? I guess you could maybe load up with strafe.
The amount of
mass drivers.
8 size 5s. So it's pretty heavily armored. It's 16 meters long.
Was it shields?
7 meters. Oh, there you go. 8 times size 5 missiles and 2 size 7 missiles. So it's a pretty big missile boat as well.
So it's got good sized missiles, no question. I mean, they're nothing to, you get 2 of those size 7s chasing your ass, torpedo ones, like, cross section ones. That's certainly that'll probably blow up. If the shields are down, or potentially blow up a ship. I mean, if you get hit with the first one, I'm guessing it would take your shields off and probably cripple you a little bit. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to see if you get hit by one. But I do know the range is horrific. It's 2 kilometers, which is
It's supposed to be 2 kilometers,
atrocious.
yeah.
Which is I mean, these things, like, you look at North Korea, these are like, land, air missile things that fire and can go, kilometers, miles and miles, and probably hit landfall in another planet, another planet, another country, another planet. Maybe not North Korea, maybe that's America. But the reality is the tally can lock you on from 17 to 20 kilometers away, I think. So useless. It has to be at least a 30k targeting range, in my opinion, to be of use. That's the way I look at that one. That's just absolutely 5 ballistas can't take out a hammerhead. Yeah. Please not today. Useless ground vehicles. Don't worry, Angel. I think it's an absolute waste of fucking time. I'm really not a fan of this ship at all. I think it's money. It's a Squadron 42 vehicle that's just been thrown in to make some money, because that's the way I look at it. It is like just the kind of like, we'll just throw this in there, Squadron 42 is kind of ready, so it can't be carried by anything realistically in game. It's slow as shit. It's once you fire all those missiles, it's completely useless. The turret's not really that good. You have to have friends with you as well, so you can't realistically play it on your own if you really wanted to, other than drive it around a little bit. It's probably got bugs in it as well, I'm sure. It's probably got lots of bugs that we probably don't know about, or will do eventually as the game proceeds. It's trash, in my opinion. I know some people will be like, how dare you? It's a lot of fun. I'm like, nah, man. It comes back to that whole, like, I want to see useless space now. Shit. I'm bored with yeah. It's that now, sure. Maybe in the future it'll have a place.
In the future, I see a future for it, but not really now. No, absolutely not.
Maybe. And it's 100 and was it 100 and something odd pounds? Like, buy a spaceship for that get money. It's $120, I think it is. Like, seriously, if you had to choose between this and a freaking spaceship, I'm like, I'm buying a spaceship. Like, $120 is a Cutlass. Like, honestly, if I had to choose, I'm not buying this. I'm buying a Cutlass.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd buy this just for the LTI token, I guess, and then upgrade to a Cutlass Blue or something. That's like literally what I would do with it. That's the only thing. It's just a means to get something else. And I'm being pretty brutal. I'm really not a fan. I'm going to say, like, I've been wrong with so many land vehicles. It's insane. I bought the Nox, thought that would be cool. Waste of money. Terrible ship. Terrible land vehicle. The Dragonfly's okay, but I don't like the fact you have to always face backwards as the passenger. The Rover, trash. Terrible vehicle for road clearance. Always bashes into things and gets stuck and loses wheels. The Tumbrel was the one I didn't like it originally because it had really skinny wheels, but then they brought it out with really chunky fat wheels, and I fell in love with it, and it was a lot of fun. And that's the only one, like, I was like, I didn't get that one initially, and I was wrong. So this one, I could be totally wrong about it.
I missed the first bit, but
totally wrong.
I mean, for me, I think, like, it's I get that there's no gameplay for it. Okay, I know that, but the reality is, this is the Squadron 42 asset. It's obviously something that's needed in Squadron 42. It's been made ready for that, and so they've just released it to us in Star Citizen. So you kind of have to look that there's no gameplay, because, like you said, we've said before, there's a ton of stuff out there with no gameplay for it anyway, like the Starfarer and everything else. Most of the ships, exactly. So that aside, I think it's a nice. It's a good looking vehicle. I like the way they've done it. I think the sort of aspect of it making it look similar to the Rover. I quite like that. I haven't been inside it, but I've seen some videos of it and inside it, and I quite like the design and the fact that there's room for a couple of people in there, and someone can use the remote turret while the other ones are using the missiles. It's not necessarily something I would need or want, but I can see some kind of fun gameplay in it. I did like the fact that, so like on your ship, when you can fire a missile, you can sit and like use the cam to follow the missile. And it looks a hell of a lot better doing it from land to air than it does from in space, from ship to ship.
Yeah.
I kind of watched people firing the torpedoes and following them, and I thought that was pretty cool to see.
Is it due
Um,
to the sense of speed you have, or
Speed, sense of speed. Yeah, I think it's probably
Could
that
be.
because you can see the
Yeah,
land.
yeah,
So you see the land, the tracking, what gives you
Yeah.
that speed sense,
yeah.
whereas you don't get that in space, right?
And so I think that's kind of fun. So yeah, overall, I mean, the price again. I caught the tail end of you talking about it. It's expensive. It's and I
$150.
don't really think it's worth that. But then I suppose it's another thing that you can buy in game if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, look, anyone that's bought it and you're supporting the game, the way you look at it is just like you're paying to support a game development. They need money. They need to keep progressing the game. They need, obviously, to pay for the devs so that they can have, their salaries and all the rest of it. They've got very high overheads as a company at the moment. So, good for you. If you want to drop it, I think you're crazy, but good for you. If that's the top, like, I just don't see other than 5-10 minutes. Like I can imagine people will bring it out on stream now, play with it, maybe for a couple of weeks max, and then it will disappear into the abyss of land vehicles that
scrap heap.
already.
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah.
biggest issue it's got at the moment is because you can't transport it anywhere. So you've got to go to a certain place. I mean, this is what makes it, because we can't even spawn stuff inside our ships as well. This is what's making it difficult for me, even my dragonfly and stuff. I want to just go out on my little dragonfly or something like that and just to fly around on that, and I can't. I have to go to a place to then spawn it and then take it out.
I'm still mad.
So.
Yeah. I'm so mad, Miz, like when you said, like, I'm so mad that they showed us, they teased us on the last Citizen Con. I'm pretty sure they showed us them spawning, or even before that on ATVs, spawning vehicles inside spaceships. That was I'm pretty sure it was either on the roadmap, but they talked about this was going to be a thing. We were going to be able to spawn our land vehicles, our dragonflies and noxes inside. They showed us it. They actually showed a cutlass.
Yeah, but John Crew
with it
mentioned it. They disabled that on purpose.
Why? They just say why?
Full landing pads. That's what they were saying. It's like everybody is gonna spawn so many vehicles and ships, whatever, that it's not good for performance. So they will enable it again, but in a later state when we got the whole server shit in.
So it was in. We could spawn our dragonflies inside a cutlass.
I don't know if it was really in one of the live builds. I've never seen it, but it was possible to do it technically.
They showed us it. Yeah, they showed us it. Technically, that's what I was just so like. For me, I was just so kind of like going, where the fuck is it? Like,
yeah, it's just
why is it not here? Like, it makes a big difference if I can constantly have a little cool little ride in my cutlass ready to go, my dragonfly or my nox or whatever.
No, I'm fairly sure that it will come next year or by the end of the year.
Yeah,
if server OCS and such is working.
Yeah, because this is what makes it's annoying, because I always want to just have if I haven't got much time, that's a whole total thing that we've talked about before on this anyway. I just want to get my dragonfly out, right? I just want to go and have a little buzz on that on a planet or something, and it's like you can't. There's no quick way of me going and getting my dragonfly and just having a little ride round on it, which is infuriating to say the least.
Exactly.
And can I just quickly say, I picked Mac's video because I knew he did a video on this, and why did he record in the dark? Like. God's sake, if you're going to show off a ship and a vehicle, Mac, record it in the light, not in a sandstorm. That bloke.
Is he acquainted with that one dev that did the demo on what was it, CitizenCon last year?
Oh yeah.
Showing off the new flight
mechanics
shit in the dark. Oh man,
this whole video is pretty much in the dark, so you at least know what it looks like in the dark.
Yeah. Welcome to the dark side. The thing is like I said, is just like people say like, oh, it's strain on the server and all the rest of it, and I'm like, well, they showed us it a long time ago. You know what I mean? When servers were supposedly unstrained because we suddenly had OCS and all the rest of it.
No, servers haven't been unstrained yet. A little bit, but not to the fullest. That's the whole reason why you still see empty planets.
No,
yes.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that shit anymore, Bok. Seriously, I've been thinking about it the other day. I was like, I think there's a lot of this kind of like they talk a lot about technical hitch-ups all the time to cover their asses sometimes, I think.
Mhm.
Honestly, I know I really do think that it's like a carrot, being technical carrot waved in front of us to say, oh, it's this, oh, it's this, oh, it's this. Like, seriously, like when they first were showing all this stuff, we didn't have a lot of things that they've added into the game now between the time they showed us that technology and what they've added in now. Between that time, that's a huge amount of stuff they've added, like, realistically,
Yeah.
into the game. Why couldn't they have dropped a few of those things, like interdiction, like a few other bits and bobs, and given us the ability to spawn our ships inside? Like, why? Like, and if we're going to get 890 jumps in the game, I'm not seriously, between me and you, I don't. If I could not have the capital ships in game right now, the 890 jump, and I could have the ability to spawn all of my vehicles in my ship, I'm telling you right now, which one I would prefer. I do like the 890 jump, and it's kind of cool to have
I ain't
capitals,
bothered about
but I would rather.
jump.
I don't care that fucking much. I'd rather have my other ships inside the game. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you now, if they don't get server OCS working this year, as they promise, you will not see what's that city, that new planet, Microtech. You're not gonna see it. Definitely not. And I'm expecting it next year, not even this year. If they're continuing like this, the only hope I have is that they're already testing server-side OCS, that the test is hopefully good. But if they're not getting it in properly, then no Microtech, no nothing, because that's holding back all the content.
But what if they put it in without it?
Good luck.
What if they magically were able to put it in with that because of the because we got better improved bind culling, and the ability, end of the day, what if they were able to put that in there and it worked? Would that be a case of like, hey, yeah, they are dangling a carrot, or is it nonsense? Is it truth? Like, is it they managed to figure out how to do it with what the resources they have? You know what I mean? I mean, these are just talk. I'm just talking. I'm not finalizing anything. I'm just talking.
Look, it's all speculating, but we've heard on British.com from numerous developers that they are actually reaching a limit.
Yeah.
Really a limit. Now, what you want to do is to even these small things for the upcoming patches before you have server OCS in, is to limit all the other things, like not spawning extra vehicles or extra ships with it, because that's an extra strain. Not only you are going to do it, but hundreds of other people.
I understand.
So basically, and I said it to Miserable last week or during the week. It's the whole AI part basically can also is waiting for the base technique getting in, so they can get more NPCs in roaming the worlds, which are all objects and all adding to that strain. So yeah, if that's getting in, then they are fully ready for getting more life in the game, more objects, more things to do.
I mean, they're building these huge, massive space stations that have just dropped into the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Replacing another
is...
truck stop, which was a bit smaller, but still fairly big.
Again, it's just a big place to go to. That like all these things with some of these things that they kind of chucked into the game as like physical objects, and I'm like, again, the environment team are doing a bang up to speed job and producing fantastic assets and stuff, and that's fine. But again, this is the again, we talked about it last week, and we always talk about it. The toss up between our game experience going through live and the developer's process of developing a computer game. That's the throw up here, and that's the reality. I'm talking purely from a gaming person's perspective of what I want to do and how I want to enjoy the game as I'm going along. In my opinion, I'd enjoy the game more if I had the ability to be able to spawn the vehicles that I own inside my spaceship and do other things. That's the way I look at it. Obviously, it's a game development thing. They're probably dropping assets, improving server, performances, all this kind of stuff. But I do sometimes kind of go, like, you just asked that question. I just kind of go, why, if you're talking about you're limiting, you got limited resources, or you're dropping big ass motherfucking space stations into the game. Sorry, I should keep pressing. Big spaceships into the game, or big stations and all these other things into the game. but you're not able to do these things. And again, I'm not.
I think
I'm
they
not a
still have
developer,
a bit
so I
of
don't know.
slack, but they are very careful with giving out all the resources.
Yeah, it must. I mean, I get it
Because
there's
otherwise they
thousands of
can't.
people. Rather than
If they
one
put
solution.
everything in that you want, then they can't bring out 3.8, for instance.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the obviously the technology is holding them back because it's all right saying that they're using it as an excuse, and they may well be. There may be an element where it's just being used as an excuse to hold some stuff back, but they're not doing themselves any favors if they had the solution to it to not let that come into
Exactly,
play.
yeah.
You know, they would introduce it. However, like you said, I think that we have come to a point where this open development has made the game extremely difficult in terms of what we're getting hold of, because we're getting hold of this in, like, so for example, there's been quite a lot of early access games out. Satisfactory, the one we've been playing recently, is a good example. Now they're at a stage where it's extremely playable. It's a game. You can play Satisfactory, you can build it, and the restriction is more just to find bits at the end where they want to add more bits into the game itself to flesh it out a bit more. Whereas Star Citizen, we're way away from that. We're not at a game state. Like we call it a game, we play it, but it's not at a game state. It's they're adding these features in, and this is where it gets a little bit screwed, because half of them, I think, they want to give us something to give us like a game loop so that we can play the game. They definitely want us to play the game more so that they can get the feedback. But at the same breath, it's not there. They need to test stuff before that. Like you said, you can't keep adding stuff when other bits aren't working. You can't get feedback on VTOL and flying when half the resources aren't in the game to make VTOL and flying work. You know, and so they overall, I think they want it to be a tech, kind of they said not to call it a tech demo, but yeah, like a tech demo. This is like trying different assets of it. I called it a tech demo a long time ago, and I think maybe I can't remember. One of the devs said to me, "It's not a tech demo," but you know, that's pretty much
It is
what,
because I think a certain nasty people, shall we say, within the anti-Star Citizen call and refer to Star Citizen as a tech demo. That's the thing, is they talk about Star Citizen in those derogative terms to say. And then obviously the problem is those people who are obviously very negative towards the game have used that word to define it. So therefore, then by association, that word is not allowed. It's like, you can't say that word because then you get associated to those people, which I think is wrong.
Yeah.
Because in reality, you know, it is in many parts. You know,
I mean, I don't know what the right word would be for it.
It's called alpha. It's called alpha is the reality. It's just called alpha.
Well, no.
That's what everyone uses.
That's
what everyone uses. It's early access, alpha, not even early access. It's just pure alpha, lots of pieces. I look at it as like a jigsaw piece, honestly, like I said the other day. I look at it as a jigsaw piece. It's like lots of pieces all over the place. You know, it's nothing.
I'm with
finished. The picture's not even there.
I'm with Engelschatten in this. He says take RCorp out, put Microtech in, screw it, or screw Microtech and RCorp, bring game mechanics. I would have way much more fun if they had decided to get rid of RCorp and get rid of no RCorp. That's enough, and give me a fully fleshed out Hurston. With walking animals, NPCs, with all the mechanics in. So way less content, planet-wise, moon-wise, and cities, but just a working, more lifelike game. That's more enjoyable than what we now have, because everybody is rushing to Arc of, oh, nice, Area 18. And after 5 minutes, you're actually bored of the neon lights because there's nothing to do.
Well, this comes to Miz and I had this conversation, and I brought this question up onto the captain's table in a really long-winded way, and Astro thought it was funny, which was, in reality, if we didn't have procedurally generated planets, we still had the loading in, and you fly in and automatically takes over, and it lands you on a city and stuff, and it's a prefabricated map, similar to like Red Dead Redemption, for example. You can't go outside of a certain area. Still pretty massive. I mean, we're talking big area, square footage. You know, in reality, what would you lose? You could still fly on the outside of the big planets. We still got all the points around, You know, you could still have certain points that you could kind of potentially go and visit and maybe go land on, you know, little areas where they have again loading in and then maps. But the reality is like, what do you actually lose as a game experience? You could still have it as beautiful visually, probably even more beautifully visually, because you wouldn't have the, you know,
Exactly.
maybe some of the performance problems. What do you lose out on? If it's, you know, an automatic landing engages and takes you down, and then you get like a kind of a scene like we get lots of other things. You don't even have the load screen. You could have just had, I mean, at the end of the day, you have that warping screen that we have for like
Yeah.
10, 12, 20 minutes as we go to different locations, which is technically a load screen anyway, kind of thing. You could still have that happening, and you could get out your spaceship seat and go and do stuff. Like, what
Well, yeah.
are you really losing?
Well, maybe exploration, and not only on surfaces, but between star systems. And it's yeah, they promised it. And for me personally, I don't have to have 100 star systems, not at launch or not ever, because it will be huge anyway. But it's the fidelity that they're always talking about, which we're also after. We want to have a living, breathing planet or planets,
You wouldn't
and
lose caves, Starbo. Sorry, you're not going to lose caves because they'd prefab. Because the point is, it's all prefabricated by humans, us. When it was the original pitch was for, you know, us, you know, designer made world, like a Red Dead Redemption map is the best way to describe it, or a Grand Theft Auto map. You know, a huge sprawling map full of things to do, versus an open sandbox where there's a few things to do. Ultimately, you have to make up probably most of the content with your friend, you know.
yeah.
And you can still have, like, I play Grand Theft Auto with Miz, and we make plenty of our own fun, and we also have plenty of gameplay made fun, plenty of game made fun.
I mean,
you know, and
this harks
Yeah, but
back
it's that-
to this is one of the questions that we were going to kind of have a good discussion on, because I think, I don't know if it's exactly what you were saying, but the kind of question we got to was, are planets a good thing or a bad thing for Star Citizen? Because obviously originally when it was pitched, it was only meant to be landing locations rather than planets, and then and now I'm talking like the more you see it. So when it first came out, they were like, wow, we've got this breakthrough technology. We've managed to do planets. You can fly into it. You can literally from the surface fly all the way out and keep going, and then you take off, which is mind-blowing. It's amazing. It's amazing technology. It's fantastic. The No Man's Sky does the same thing. And when we first saw it, it was just like, wow, everybody loved it. Everybody went nuts. But as time goes on and where we are now, and when you actually think about it, it's like, is this a hindrance to Star Citizen? Is this something that's actually going to make it worse in the long run? Because we went from them originally saying they were going to do all these landing zones, they were all going to be handcrafted, everything was going to be made, like you said, with GTA, Red Dead Redemption. You're talking about very small maps, and they made a point very early on that one of the craters in, was it Yella, was the size of Skyrim. Now you know how long it took them to craft Skyrim and make that map. Now, if there's just a single crater in Star Citizen is Skyrim, how the hell are you going to populate just one full planet so that that you can walk about on it, that you can go and see things, that you can do things? Let alone 100 systems with planets within those systems. It's like what you're actually getting is tons and tons and tons of empty space with nothing there. And to a certain point,
that's not exploration.
Look at our planet now. It's like, was it 60% water, whatever. It's a lot of nothingness anyway. And you look at Australia. It's a massive country. A big chunk of it is just a load of nothingness. And so, while at first it looked like a really good thing to do, is this all worth it? Are we just getting
I still think it is.
too much space with no real gameplay in it?
I don't need it all at launch, but I do have good and high hopes that they will solve this empty space with, well, good developed AI, and maybe even more advanced, what do you call it, procedural generation of certain objects and stuff. It's a lot of work, but if they can manage that to fill in all those planets and moons, And
It's a
not
gamble.
everything has to be
That's a-
filled
that's a
in, but
big- That's a
it's
big,
huge.
I mean, that's a big gamble because you're basically saying, like, if you think about it, there's a tried and tested formula over here, and I mean a tried and tested that's successful.
Yeah.
And like Cyberpunk 2077 is doing exactly the same thing again. It's going, here is a world, and we're making this world, this city, and whatever else they do externally. We're making it amazing, and then we'll expand this with DLCs maybe in the future. But we are a tried and tested formula that's amazing, and we will make this a living, breathing, and I'm sure it's going to be incredible. Okay. Red Dead Redemption, incredible. Grand Theft Auto, incredible. Like, I don't ever feel like I get to the edge of those maps and go, oh, I just need another 30,000 miles or whatever. I just need another, I don't. I genuinely, sometimes I go, this is too big. This map is huge. I can't get from one side to the other side. Or, whereas in Star Citizen, I just look at it and I go, like, seriously, it's such a gamble. You're assuming that they're going to be able to make something that we've already seen with other gaming companies, with Skyrim, with Elite Dangerous. It sounded like
I'm not assuming anything. I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
You're hoping. Yeah. Okay. Well then. Okay. So, but you're still.
That's all
you're
I can do. I don't know about you.
and that's
but...
fine. That's cool.
All I'm
But, like,
saying is they should
me-
narrow it down right now. So fuck those 100 systems at launch. Do
Well,
expansions.
how many do you think
whatever.
we should have?
Yeah. 25 systems. Yeah, just
And how many planets in the system? Like,
yeah, but that's all the unknown. I haven't seen that dynamic star map of them on the website for a long time, but there will be enough content in these. But
it's the thing I'm saying though is it's not. I totally agree. I definitely think hundreds, and they've already said that. So I think they're already pushing towards us, to nudging us in that direction of that we're not going to get 100 systems at launch anyway. They have said that, but I'm just trying to say, like, even just in the planets we've got now, before you expand anything else, like ArcCorp, for example, they said it was going to be a completely full planet of a city.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
every game I've played so far, like GTA, everything else, the maps are getting bigger. Red Dead, I think, is bigger than GTA map. Was it four times the size? But that's still, if you imagine that on ArcCorp, it's like
a speckle.
Yeah, it's like a speck. So how can you get that to be the rest of the planet? And
I
be
don't think
interesting?
it can be done manually by artists.
It's not going to be. They
Otherwise,
said
you
it's
would
going to
have
be.
But that's
so
my point.
many.
That's the whole point we're coming to. Is like you're sacrificing artist and well player, like a developer made things for procedurally generated.
Everything's going procedural.
And you're expecting them to be able to then break the coding that no one else has managed to realistically do yet, and that's fine. We are completely allowed to hope. We're expecting them to be able to create fantastic procedurally generated, amazing subsumption like no one has ever done before. I mean, that's the whole point of why it's 300 million, blah blah blah. But a part of me goes, I look at it and I'm thinking and I'm going, Red Dead Redemption. Here's a studio that had 1,000+ developers, a budget way bigger than Star Citizen's budget, and they still didn't chase that rabbit down that rabbit hole. They still have only gone, we're just going to make our maps this, and we're going to expand on the size of these and make them bigger over time slowly. We are not going after that rabbit down that rabbit hole because we know where it will lead to. Nowhere.
If you imagine like a
CIG
whole planet,
they're all about the tools.
Yeah, but it's still like, if you imagine the whole of ArcCorp and you take it back down into think of it as like an MMO level, and you've got quest givers, and where your quest givers are scattered out. Now, if you've got to scatter your quest givers over a whole planet, how are you finding these people? Like, it's like, if I go into London now, I only traverse a tiny percentage of the streets to go to the tourist locations I want to go. So you're either going to cut a load of it off, which they've already said they're going to do anyway, so you're not going to drive down the streets. But like, it's just going to, it's going to look fancy, but it's basically going to be emptiness.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what I can say is it's just going to be lots of emptiness, spaces everywhere, because you can't, even if you could fill it, even if you could procedurally generate it, even if you could procedurally generate missions, I mean, some people like to achieve and pick up every mission available. Like, it would be impossible. It would probably take you 10 years just to do a one planet's worth of missions if a planet was completely full and was stuffed full of quests and quest givers and missions. You know, and so then you times that by how many planets in a system, then you times that by the amount of systems. It's too big, even if they could do it. You know,
True.
that's kind of what I'm looking at. And don't get me wrong, this isn't salt. This is just interesting conversation. What do
We're
you
having a
guys
dialogue
think?
about
You
what-
could completely
I mean-
think I'm wrong. You completely want to
Yeah,
look
I think Grave
empty
makes a really good
spaces,
point.
You know?
Grave makes a really good point. He sort of says, like, comparing Red Dead, he's saying, like, you're on a horse, whereas in Star Citizen, you're in a spaceship, which is very true. Like, when you're in, if you think about it, like, if you land, you'll be able to cover, obviously, in theory, you know, a much greater distance in your spaceship. So, in theory, your maps would, I mean, I'm saying
But
the
that-
map would be big. You know, when I'm still saying the map would be big, equivalent to being able to be used like a Red Dead for a spaceship. So I don't know what size that map would potentially have to be, but it would be obviously bigger than, you know, if you were to scale it. So like say horse, and that's like a 20K map or 4K map, whatever for Red Dead, and then you say, okay, for a spaceship that can cover the same amount of distance, blah blah. What's the math? I don't know the math, but we could figure it out and go, okay, to have the same size map for the amount of distance and speed you can travel in a horse in Red Dead gives you this. How much would that be for Star Citizen? I think it still wouldn't be a planet. You know what I mean?
And
it would be a big map, but it wouldn't be a planet.
The difference you have in that as well, though, is what you're saying. If you looked at it ship-wise, you would that's what landing zones are. That's why you would have certain zones within a planet, because you can travel far to get there. Whereas Red Dead, even though you're on a horse, you can come across things as you're going across land. You're walking through the forest, and all of a sudden someone pulls you over and tells you he wants to go on a hunting trip, or you know you go past in a village. You're not going to do that if you're flying past everything. What, you're going to stop at every little easy hab thing that you see on the floor, every lab on the floor, or how many of these labs are you going to have? Is it, you know, it's
Also, it brings in land-based vehicles then as well. Then your gameplay switches, because as well, and if you're forcing people, you saying, okay, your spaceship is for spaceship play, and then when you're on the land, you're land-based and it's for land-based vehicles. You know what I mean? And that's the whole experience. You are then limited. Yes, you don't get that amazing ability maybe to fly over. Maybe they change it so you could fly in a smaller spaceship, like like an X-85 or whatever else, or maybe on some missions that they give you, NPC missions, you get to take a certain ship out and stuff. But the reality is they would control you. I know it's not what people want necessarily, because then you're then controlled. And the whole point is this is sandboxy, I suppose. And I get it. I mean, I get why people wouldn't like that, but I also kind of go, it's a little bit like Henry Ford, like what people think they want and what's actually fun and enjoyable is completely opposite to each other. You know what I mean? Like and then everyone grumbles and moans, "I was boring. I hate the game. I was boring. Quantum travel's boring," all that kind of stuff. You know? Oh, I think my camera switched off.
Bye.
But that's the thing, though, isn't it?
I'm
like
bored.
You're talking about the land vehicles. But they've already said, because of the way they're procedurally generated in ArcCorp, you can't, I miss that feeling. You can't go out on your Dragonfly and start buzzing down the streets, because it's we're now more focused and more honed in than we ever would have been. You got certain platforms that you can walk on. You can see the whole city. You know the whole city exists, but you can't go and explore it. You're locked into this pathway that they're giving you now.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know if it will be possible in the future though, but they never mentioned that, I think.
It would be.
But then you're still going to have restrictions, because they've already said, like, you can't have every building be a shop face. You can't have every building walkable. They've already said that. So although the buildings are going to be there, they have said that you're not going to be able to go in every building. You're going to be specific buildings that will have quest givers in them.
Yeah.
So they've already said that. So all you're doing is that you're blowing that up on a much bigger scale. Mm-hmm. Whereas when they originally, like I said, going right back, the technology fantastic. It's amazing to see. But when they first pitched it, it was, you're going to be out in atmosphere and you request landing and it pulls you in and you go to a landing zone. And to be honest, now looking back, I think that would have been fine. You would have had your landing zone. You could have expanded on that. We could have still been much bigger than any of these other games. We still could have had huge places to explore.
Huge places, yeah.
I just feel like they could have
had massive,
we're going to get a lot of emptiness. Yeah.
Yeah, but you look at Elite Dangerous.
Yeah.
That's basically the same. They've got 400 billion systems.
And that's what we're looking more like at the moment. And No Man's Sky. It's
And it's not even as pretty as Star Citizen because it's all dark and brown, and you've got a couple of stations, and you're still playing a damn ship, not even a person. Um, yeah, it's the same thing. You need to. I hope they can fix this with uh, what I
It's
said,
not.
better AI. Maybe make the planets and moons a bit smaller, and not as much as planned for.
I think what to me the only way they could really kind of recover from what like you said, the rabbit hole they've gone down is you keep in the planets. They're probably
Mm.
going to be procedurally generated, the whole thing. But we still go back to the landing zones. So there'll just be hubs on the planet. So really, most of your planets are going to be big loads of nothingness. There'll be forests on it and water on it, and perhaps you can build your base anywhere you like, and maybe the odd cave. But really, there's not going to be people about. There's not going to be dispersed. It's going to be
Real people then.
Well, we haven't even seen the base building mechanics yet. You know
No,
what I mean?
no,
This is what I'm saying. Like,
No, I
it's
know
still,
we're
we still haven't
speculating
even
about
seen that yet.
something is far from finished. I know.
We've
yeah,
seen
I'm more on about just the
couple
mechanics
halves.
rather than what we're seeing. And I'm
Yeah,
taking the
okay.
mechanic part away from it,
Yeah.
just looking at land mass and that sort
Yeah,
of thing. You
yeah.
know, like it's too much
Yeah.
to fill. You know, that's what I'm kind of saying. It was a good technology. It was a good thing to break, but at the same time, was it? Was it a good thing for the game?
That's the fundamental question that we're saying, and that's exactly what we had this big conversation for a bit before.
And I had
was
this poll set
you
up
know-
that you could all vote in chat, but I haven't got it set up.
Oh.
So it's not working. I wanted you all to vote and
Rats.
see what your opinions were, and then see whether it changes by the end of the discussion, whether you agree, disagree.
If you agree or disagree. I mean, personally, I honestly, I look at it this way: is I go, what would we have actually lost? I kind of go, what is the scales of balance between what we've lost and what we would have gained? You know what I mean? Like, that's the way I look at it. Is like, would we have lost anything horrific that would have stopped me from having fun, or would we have gained much more? Would we have gained more time, for example, which is such a precious commodity at the moment? It seems in this game, would we have gained more time because they would have gone, okay, well, we we're not, and by the way, Asnog, the quote from Henry Ford is, if you asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for a faster horse, not a car.
For what?
People don't necessarily know. If you ask the people what they wanted, they'd have asked for a faster horse, not a car. People don't know what they want. Is the point?
Oh, right, okay.
You know what I mean? That's the quote. That's the quote from Henry Ford when he asked about designing, and coming up with the automobile.
Oh, yeah.
That's
you
the
don't know
reality.
it
People
doesn't
don't
exist. Yeah.
People don't know. Didn't exist, so people don't know. And that's the reality is now we can look back on it now and go procedure generated versus existing. I kind of go, yes, it's cool, but I can see huge downsides now that I didn't. Originally, I was like, oh, it's amazing.
Because
but now I'm like,
you look at No Man's Sky, and they've done a ton of work on that game, and it's so much more fun to play. But it's still tons of planets, and they're procedurally generated, and they're still pretty average. There's nothing. I don't think they stand out and go, "Oh wow, this is an amazing planet to explore." They've just got resources dotted about, things dotted about, but overall they're just big masses of land to fly over. And I think you tend to just land in one spot, do what you need to do, and then take off and go somewhere else. And that's what I feel like. With this, I was worried a little, not worried, I don't even know what the right word is, but right back when they were starting showing us the HABs and the labs and everything else, how they were procedural. And I said right back then, I said, well, they all look the same. All they've done is they've just changed the color on them. And then they say, oh, but we can procedurally generate inside. You can, but they still look 4x4 blocks. Like there's no shapes, there's nothing interesting. There's no it's starting to look procedural. If you know what I mean, it looks like it's something that's just clicked a button and procedurally generated it. Now, granted, these new space stations are looking a lot better with the procedural generator. They'd actually look pretty good. Whereas when they showed you the truck stops, it was just like, well, one's longer, one's a bit shorter, one's got a sign on it, one hasn't got a sign on it. But really,
all the Tetris shapes.
Yeah, you feel like once you've seen one, you've seen all of them. And that's what my fear was right back then when I started seeing this procedural stuff. It's like, well, how much of this is just going to look the same from planet to planet, from station to station, rather than when you were handcrafting each bit to make it look more individual? I mean, look at ArcCorp, it's a good example. You see it, and it pretty much looks procedural. It's all orange as well, and there's no variety. It doesn't feel like a place alive. I mean, it's beautiful and pretty in its own right, but it could be so much more. That's how I feel.
True. Still busy with it, of course, but yeah.
With the stations, because again, I haven't watched. I don't. It's hard to keep a track sometimes with the ICS and the live and stuff. Those new stations, are they all completely procedural?
I think so, yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, do we know for a fact that they're all 100% procedural? Are they 60% procedural and 40% handcrafted? Are they 20% procedural, 80% handcrafted? Does anyone know exactly like the true numbers? Or because they no longer go into these deep dives on stuff that they used to. Do you know what I mean? We used to get these really good ATVs where they would show us the team and they talk about how they made it. I don't think there's been one where they talked about how they made the stations yet. Or has there? If
There
there
was
is one,
something
someone
on the
there was.
stations, but
Yeah.
I thought, but it wasn't very deep though, was it?
No,
I don't think
no.
it didn't really explain.
they just showed them off a little bit, yeah.
They showed us a bit more on the truck stop when they were doing old stuff. They showed us a bit more about the procedurally generated, but I'd just be curious to know, like, because like we talk about how good they are, but it's like again, if like it turns out that they're 70% handmade, again that comes back to the same argument about again what's better, handmade versus procedural, or I think it's definitely a marriage of the two is helpful. But again, they could probably have married the tech rather than going fully procedural. A part of me always thinks maybe if they had just married a bit of the old system with the mapping with a little bit of the new procedural, they could have created really big maps. Do you know what I mean? The way I look at it is they could have made, rather than whole worlds, they could have made really massive maps. And then maybe 10 years, 20 years down the line, as they were going through all these processes, then they released Star Citizen 2. And then you go, guess what, guys? Or they maybe in the game, they release a DLC pack and say, we've created a new system. And in this system, you have 2 whole planets, which are now, and we've filled them with content and we've made them all amazing. You know what I mean? And everyone will go, wow, it's amazing. Do you know what I mean?
But
And
the guys that want to do space exploration, they are let down.
Yeah.
They want to explore. They want to go in. No, I'm not talking about me.
No,
There are people there that want to do space exploration.
You are them, is what I'm saying. When I say you, I mean them.
Yeah, and if I've got 2 systems, well, there's not much to explore, is there?
No, not really. No, I would say I would kind of argue that it depends what we're exploring. I mean, if you have like huge asteroid belts, look at Yella.
Mm-hmm.
You were to circle all around Yella, like just on your own, just pot around all the way around Yella. That's a huge amount of potential space to go around.
True. No, but I'm looking more from the side of there we go again, Elite Dangerous, where you scan the system, the planets, and all the bodies in there, and see what kind of types they are. But yeah, you can also do surface exploration in Star Citizen, I guess. That takes you a lot longer because of the size of those planets. But in space,
I mean, how far have you actually walked? I mean, if you were to get out your spaceship and have a little wander around, you just kind of like. I mean,
it made me laugh because when they first mentioned about the procedural planets and everyone was getting hyped and excited about it, I remember several streamers saying that when it comes out, they were going to walk the planet. They were going to put auto walk on, and they were going to walk the planet or the moon. Not one of them did it.
No.
You know why? Because they're freaking massive, and it would take you forever.
And the server crashes.
Yeah, and the server crashes as well. But
you will never manage.
I think the Daymar Rally guys showed you they ran when their vehicles broke. Some of them had to run, and it took them hours to run from from a point to a point on a huge planet. So again, I mean, this is a big one. Like the rabbit's already out or whatever. No, sorry, Pandora's already out of the box. Star Citizen, they're already going in one direction. It doesn't really matter what we say now. But what it does make me wonder is if there was ever another game coming out that's similar to Star Citizen in terms of scope, but they decide to go against procedurally generated, and they go, we're going to build a smaller world, a smaller universe like Jewel or whatever. We're going to build a smaller universe, and we're going to, we'll make it as beautiful as Star Citizen, but we're going to focus on, blah blah blah. We're not going to go that way. It would be really interesting. I almost wish I'd like to see.
It will be more beautiful than Star Citizen then.
It would be a fight to see. Yeah, well, in theory, it should be because it's not.
Yeah, it will be.
So resource.
Well, that's
Like,
the problem as well.
Cyberpunk,
We get the fidelity, and then they say, oh, it's all about the fidelity. And then when you look at these really high crafted things, people turn around and say to me, well, we're not going to get that because there's not enough resources in Star Citizen. It's like, well, on one hand, you're getting all the scratches on the gun, and then on the other hand, we can't have all this stuff on a planet because it's too much resources. And it's like, well, to me, the maybe the balance isn't there. The balance is out. And I think we generally probably will go back to having landing zones. Like, we'll still have full planets because they can't go back on that. But I think it'll end up being honed in on landing zones. And I think you'll just find that you'll be flying over the planets most of the time doing nothing. I don't know. I don't know. I think that's probably what we'll see.
The most interested for me is to see what's going to happen after the end of this year. When server OCS is in, server meshing, that sort of things, will that speed up the progression of putting in content? And how fast? And even when, at a time when Squadron 42 is finished, all the chapters, and hopefully those artists that are claimed by that project will go to Star Citizen, how things are speeding up, or will it be the same? Really wondering how that will look like. But that's far
But then once
away.
they've done that, then you've got Squadron 42, Chapter 2 and 3 to work on. And...
After all the chapters, then we're talking about, but it's.
But that's.
I don't think it's
how
not
many years
progressing.
How many years it taken them to do one chapter?
Well, the problem
3 years, 4 years. This is because ignore let's just say 3 years to do 3 years to do chapter 1, another 3 years to do chapter 2, 9 years to get 9 years to get 3 out.
I mean, but that's slightly different. I mean, once you've put all the mechanics and everything else in, then it's like sequels to games. People churn out the sequels more because they've built everything already. You know what I mean? Like, most of it's built. It's a lot easier to do a sequel.
I hope.
So I definitely think that's going to be the case. I just think
like,
at the moment we've not even got a full system, and we're supposed to have 100 systems. That's where we are in reality. And it's like, no matter how quick they work, can they really work fast enough to chuck out systems? Or it's not whether they can work fast enough. How many years do you think we're going to be waiting to the release of this? Because Squadron may be next year, but if we've only got one system at the moment and it's not full and it's not fleshed out, how long is it going to take to do 2 systems, 3 systems, 4 systems, 20 systems? Even if we release with 25 systems.
They just need to do one system and get all their game mechanics into that one or 2 systems.
We don't need to
2 systems because they need to test.
Yeah.
They just need to test the jump gate, whatever, because they'll need to test that because it's obviously that's fair enough. So you need 2 systems. You need one to jump to another gate, to check that thing works. But after that, it's like you just make sure they're full. But but again, that comes back to like I don't know. I have serious doubts at the moment. Serious doubts about the time scope, the scale of time that's required to create this. And the reality is that the scale of time with an overhead cost of 35 million pounds a year plus another 100 jobs that they need to require. So let's just say that goes up to, say, I don't know, another 36 million, and you're talking about a game development that needs to be in the progress for another 15, 20 years to make it to what we think it will be now. And if you think about it, consoles develop and change every 3 to 4 years now. So again, if you do the math on that, we'll be on PlayStation 10 by the time that in theory this game should be. And then you think about in terms of how this game's being run on the graphics,
then
this
we
game
can discuss
will
our
look
console gaming.
Yeah. But this game will look literally would end up looking compared to other games, if it's still using this kind of tech, it would look like Star Wars Online does now, as an MMO, barren blank little pixels, you know what I mean, or like a Minecraft. If you think the amount of time it takes to get there, And then it's like, but then they're like, well, if they're changing the wheels on the car as they're going along and improving the graphics, then there's just, it's again, this is the merry-go-round of trying to keep up at the same time as, I don't know, man. Like seriously, like I'm just like,
it's
fuck, man.
especially the UI that got like this week. I cried. I really cried.
Yeah.
Do we really want to talk
Right.
about it?
No, we're out of time probably. But
Well, if you cover it in
I
detail, 'cause I didn't watch
secretly
it. I didn't
hope
watch
for
it.
CitizenCon. I
watch
secretly hope for CitizenCon that after the keynote they will show us just like a full Hurston. So you got something that's in there for like a year now, but really lively with animals and different variations of plants, and because they already showed that.
Yeah.
By that time, server OCS should be in. Um, that's a secret hope of mine, but yeah, that would amaze me more than getting new stuff that we have never seen, like aliens or whatever.
Surprise ground vehicles.
Usable ground.
Hey, I'm not gonna knock that. At least it's like straight in game and it's running and it's another asset, another
But do
loading
you think
asset
it
in the
should have?
game.
That's a different topic. I was going to say, do you think it should have been a surprise? But we won't go down that road. It's so yeah. I
We'll talk
mean,
about.
anyway. So in
What were you saying about the UI? What was he saying? But what were you saying about the UI though? Because I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it.
One word: rework.
Yeah, pretty much. It's all the change in the whole way the system handles. So it's yet another system that's going to have a complete overhaul and a complete rework. And I mean, most of the questions are
Did they say why?
Well, yeah, because so they're talking about being able to customize the UI and everything else. Now everything was baked on, so it was like fixed positions of where it is and everything else. And now they want to go over to this sort of grid system, which means it can be, I don't know, I presume they break up your screen into a grid and things can be told where to be on that grid rather than being in a fixed position. And then it was to do with, it was just, I mean, there was some interesting stuff on there and there's some stuff to look forward to, but there's also some answers that were just really, just made me facepalm. It was like, I mean, so like the whole thing opened up in terms of, is there any plans to allow custom UI? And the first response was, well, first of all, we've got to work out if people want to customize the UI and why they want to customize the UI. And I'm like, oh my God.
Wake the fuck up.
Oh, have you ever played a game before? Like, ever? Like, as I was saying to Bok the other day, Skyrim is one of the most heavily modded games out there. And it's still going strong now because people want to change the UI. They want to say that, you know, and everybody's different. Like you just said, what different ideas of what fun is. People want to change things around. People want to move stuff around. Yeah, WoW, another one example, mods, UI mods. It's like, it's one of the most basic things that everybody wants to do. The fact his very first response was, well, why we need to work out why people want to do that, and then perhaps we can design it so they don't want to. It doesn't matter how they design the UI. People will still want to move it. I mean, look at us. We've all got mobile phones, right? What can you do with them? You can change the display. You can change what icons are in it. You can change what your home screen looks like. Why is he even asking the question of why people would want to do it? Just baffles me. It just baffles me, and like to even mention that, to even say it. Crazy.
That's a good. That sums up though. Are they? Oh no, yeah. Oh, okay, we'll have to talk about that another time. We'll talk about that next week as well. I think that's a good one. I want to talk about that again.
I've watched it
I haven't watched
twice.
it. I need to watch it.
I've watched it twice. The pure agony to just see if I was wrong the first time, and I was a little bit wrong. Changed a little bit of my mind, but it's still fucked.
No. I mean, one of the other things was like, can we have a button to hide the HUD? Because people like taking screenshots. People love taking the screenshots. They want to hide the HUD. Then his response was, one of them even said, oh yeah, even the devs keep pestering us and asking us for this because when they're developing the game, they need to get rid of the HUD so they can see things. And my mind's like, well, why the hell have you not done it then? If your own developers are asking for it because it would help them develop the game, why the hell if you not? And then this bloke was started to me and said, well, what we're going to do is we're looking at ways where you can hide different parts of the HUD so you can take different screenshots and different, it'll look cool. No.
Yeah.
at a later date, yeah. Everybody just wants, in every single game, F12 hides HUD, and it hides everything. Don't start getting overly creative with all this crap. Just give us a button that will hide everything. It's not rocket science. Like, where is his head at? Just give us a button that will turn the whole fucking... That could be done tomorrow, surely. It's got to be a simple piece of code where you can bind a button to hide everything on your UI. But he kept going on and on as if like he wants it to be like artistic shots, and we might want to take off the HUD, but we might want to keep on our life monitor or something. I don't know, all crap like that. It's just like, just stop, because I'm gonna smash the screen in a minute when you keep talking a load of rubbish. And then another one. This is all the bad points of it, okay? And I'm just on a little bit of a rant, but like there was some interesting things. But like a third thing he said was like, people asked the question: "Is can we have a compass?" And not his response wasn't, "Oh no, it's hard." It was, "I don't really see why people want a compass." And I'm just like,
but also the fact he says there are other alternatives to compass.
Yeah.
Okay, what? Explain. What do you find an alternative for a compass for ground battles, whatever?
It's not. We don't want. I get that you don't want to give locations away. We get all that shit, but you just need some form of reference point so you can say to someone, "I'm north of the outpost. I'm south of the outpost." It's, oh my god, it's not hard. It's not. We're not asking for giving locations away. We're not asking for anything special. And like people are saying, well, some planets don't have poles. Okay, but like, can't you fake a pole just for a compass? Like, can't you just say that this is top, this is bottom on a planet? It doesn't matter how it's rotated, as long as you've got a point that's at the top and a point that's at the bottom, and you can. Yeah, I don't know. It's just
yeah.
And then we didn't touch the MFDs.
Do you know what? I'm with Grave on this one when he says this. This is why developers have publishers. Yeah, I agree with it. Seriously. This is sometimes why you have these people on top who are, going, what the fuck are you talking about, boy? You know what I mean? Like, you get that person that comes in. I think the problem is I think they're all drinking from the same teepee. They all go into Chris Roberts' teepee and start smoking the same thing. And they all come out going, we need to overcomplicate this guy. So I think they all start to become, like, if you hang around like a certain type of person for too long, you all end up getting synced up to the same kind of magic Kool-Aid, and start talking the same and thinking the same, because what it is I know this from creatively, is sometimes you want to, it gets your ideas through, because it's like you start talking like they do, and then then it's like, oh yeah, we could do this, and then the hands start going, and then you're kind of like thinking the same, and that you're hearing that person talk about it all the time as well. He's been around forever. This guy,
6 years.
Been around
so
since the
he's
beginning.
changed his position, and he's now. But what I'm saying, the reason I got this link is because Bot found it for me. But like, we talked about custom UI, and they said, I don't know why you want it, and then we've already had it. We've already had this being shown to us with look at this with all your apps and everything else that you can find that's so much easier. Look at that. It's so much better. And then on top of that,
I don't think it's really this particular graphic style that makes it hard for them. It's more the framework.
No, but then this bit,
but
with it changing color, right?
Yeah.
It's like they were talking. He was talking. He said something in the thing about it changing color, and he was saying, "Well, we don't know if we can do that or something else." And it's like, look, you've shown it in the past. We've got adjusting our color. We saw this, and we all thought, great. We can all have it the color we want. And then the bloke's turning around saying, I don't see why people want to customize it. Why not?
We don't want to customize our spaceships, do we, either?
No.
Why would you want to pay for
Why
that?
would anyone want to customize anything?
I don't want to customize my clothes, my uniform. Don't want to customize in the game. Of course you do. It's stupid. I mean, that's just beyond stupid. You should be literally sat there at home now going, I'm so stupid.
So, yeah.
Or orders from above.
Like the way I look at it, it must be. The thing I look at it is this whole team is shit when it comes to making things simple and clean. Like, it's just crap. It's been crap since the day I started playing it, honestly.
Overdo it. Yeah.
And that's now. And I agree with Grave says earlier. He says at the end of the day, a lot of these things come into the gameplay, and what we get at the end of the game will be, totally cleaned up and blah 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 blah. But like we just discussed it, like at the end of this game could be 20 years from now at this rate. Who knows? And they could be still going around on the merry-go-round of being developers because they don't have, like you also pointed out, publishers that basically say, what the fuck are you doing? They have us who are always bickering amongst ourselves, other than when they try to charge us for tickets. And even then, there were some idiots that thought it was a good idea to go watch CitizenCon. I mean, so, I mean, that's just, oh, do you know what? Like, I'm so glad I didn't see it because if I think I did, we'd probably been ranting about that for about 30 more minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, you will not sleep tonight.
It was frustrating me.
Yeah.
It really did frustrate me watching it, in all honesty.
I can sense the frustration. I mean, if you two, like, here's the thing, right? If they are getting frustrated, the two next to me, about that, that's a bad thing because these two generally are like really chilled and very level-headed about stuff. And if they are getting salty, then it is bad. There's no other word to describe it. That couldn't have been a good episode.
I have to say that the first time I was watching it and not really paying that close attention, I didn't get the feeling that they already started on it. So I paid extra attention on the second time when watching it, and there's a lot of the stuff that they were talking about. They are busy with it. It's not finished yet, but they're busy with it. And later on, Jared also explained that they will show it in I think the last quarter of Star Citizen Live to show a bit more what they're busy with now, what's finished and whatnot.
So there were a couple of okay and / interesting things. I mean, there was a ton of responses where it was almost like, oh, we hadn't thought of that, but we'll take it into consideration. I mean, there was tons of that. We'll take it into consideration, which, anyway. But there were things like, so, I mean, Lando made a good point in terms of, like, with the custom UI and stuff that, and this goes a little bit back to what we were talking about being a tech demo and everything else. It's like, we need one solid UI that's working for everybody so that they can test it and see what doesn't work and what does work. And there's no point if everybody's customizing their UI and then you're sending bug reports, you've got even more of a headache. It's like, well, is it because you customize your UI? Is it because you've put this over here or that over there? So I 100% get that. Like, and I'm not against that. It's just the fact that his response was like, when he was going, well, why would people customize it? That's what was getting on my nerves. It's like, I get that it's not in now, and that's fine. No one's asking for it to necessarily be in this week, tomorrow, whatever. It's just acknowledge that this is stuff people want. Don't act like it's not. But yeah, I mean, I do get that you need to have a standard to work from. And it's the same way people were moaning about widescreen and everything else. And they're saying, look, at the end of the day, the majority of people still game at 1080p. And so you have to have a standard that you're going to work towards to bug fix and everything else before you start adapting and working your way out from that. And that makes 100% sense. That's, that's common sense. Otherwise you are, and that's better thinking than when we're talking about them testing VTOL with not having all the mechanics in, because you're not going to work. So yeah, at least he's right in that respect, and so at least they're acknowledging it to a degree.
When they do like if I was, I mean, if this is just like for me, like, but if it was me that was doing the UI as an overriding kind of philosophy, I would go with the Lotus philosophy. Simplify and lighten. That would be it, literally. And I would go and I would say, okay, I want you to make this UI work with an Xbox controller, with a PlayStation controller. That's your challenge. Make it so that it's so simple, a person with a controller can pick it up and play it and be able to navigate around and be able to do everything within the game. Clean and simple. Like, again, a bit like how Apple Mac, excuse me, kind of, did the scrolling wheel and all the rest of it. It's not that easy. It's actually really, really hard. But if you have a really good philosophy right at the key point and you say, that is our philosophy that runs across everything that we do in terms of UI, simplify and lighten or whatever, simplification, just some simple philosophy. And that's everything you do. And you go, and whenever you come into a meeting and somebody goes, they give you a big description and you just go, point to the sign over there. And then the guy goes, okay. They get it straight away because they immediately know, yeah, I didn't hit any of that. I hit none of that, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, go away and do it again. Because it's not any of those things. And I think that perhaps it seems to be the opposite. It seems to be overcomplicate and break. is kind of the philosophy that seems to be going on. You know, I don't hear what their philosophy is. I'd like to hear it. What is your UI philosophy? When
They
you create it
probably
for us as
don't
good?
know because
No.
what I
They
didn't
need
know,
one.
for instance,
need one.
is like they are thinking about lenses, contact lenses. So you got your ship hut, your helmet visor, and contact lenses. And you have to or must be able to interchange all the applets or whatever you want to call it between those 3 layers if you want to. That's the customization. Now it sounds to me like that's almost impossible to design. It's very difficult. And it's completely the opposite of what you're just talking about,
Yeah.
Madness.
Yeah, giving you multiple
like-
layers.
But it's like Apple, like it's like if I said to you, you know, if I was to describe to you again, like this again comes back to the whole designing something that's never been done before. It's like if I was to say to you, you're now going to have your entire music library in your hand,
Yeah.
and you need to navigate all of those albums efficiently and quickly. Would you have figured out a little scrolling wheel would be able to and you press a little button in the middle, a scrolling wheel and a button in the middle enables you to go up and down and be able to click on it, and you go to all your tabs and blah, 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 and then you
Yeah.
scroll down again and you go, genius.
Yeah.
Absolute fucking genius. And again, that's the thinking that, like, in my head they should be using. That place is like, how do, like, they talk about like innovating and creating and coming up with new concepts and pushing the envelope at Star Citizen. Well, they need to damn well push the envelope on their UI. They damn need to think completely in a fresh way, in my opinion, and really push the envelope of how they make it so that we can interact with this game on a far more simple level, so we can use it more efficiently.
Well,
That's the way I look at
A
it.
huge chunk that I was talking to Bok about it is the issue they have is because and as Gray was saying, it's because they want the immersion, and so like you said,
Fidelity.
your Moby glass is meant to be attached to your arm. Now they've had huge issues with that already in the past because your arm's all over the place, so which means your menu screen is all over the place, and so for me personally, I want to get rid of that immersion and have a decent UI that I can use. Like, even if someone else looking at you sees you put your arm up and you're looking at the Moby glass, good. But for me, internally looking at it, I want to actually just have it fill my screen so I can see what's going on and click the buttons I want to go.
Yeah, make it
I don't
full
want
screen.
it wobbling all over the place. I don't want it to look like I can, like, what it reminds me of is when I see people playing VR games and they're trying to look at their menus and it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
like that's what we're getting in Star Citizen because they want to represent it in the real world, and it's making the UI suffer. So now they're talking about that's why you then have the helmet thing because we can't have it there because it needs to be displayed on there when you're walking around. And then you have the reason they're talking about the lenses is because they want to explain why you can see chat still because they want chat always visible. So obviously when you take off your helmet, you still want to be able to see chat. Well, how can we describe it? I'll tell you what, we've got contact lenses that show you chat. They're making it complicated for trying to make it feel more realistic. And there's sometimes where they harp on and say that they're happy to make it like a game. They're trying to make a balance between it being a fun and a game and a real thing. Well, gamify some of it, right? Just gamify some of the bloody stuff.
Yeah.
Make it so that at the end of the day,
Well, they already do,
he's already
so
said
it's a problem.
UI is such an important part of it. It literally touches every aspect of the game, the UI. So we need it to work. And there's no, I haven't played every game you play. When you pick up a menu, the menu comes in front of your face. You can see it. It's a good size. It's not a little box. I mean, it looks cool. Don't get again. This is a bit like the planetary tech. It looks cool when you arm up your arm and you've got this Moby glass.
Yeah.
Originally, when we first saw it, it looked fucking amazing. It looked cool. But now, when you try and use it and you think about it, it's like, nah, man, this is not good.
Not functional.
It's not functional.
Well, its thing is it's still cool, but half the time it's not. Again, it's not that user friendly. You know what I mean? There's another game out there that does something similar, which is the Pip Boy on Fallout. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But that does, by
But
the way,
it's
go from a hand
still-
animation to a full screen.
And that's what we're
Right,
talking
that's
about.
true.
That's what we need.
But then again, if you actually navigate their layout and stuff, once you get used to it, it's fairly intuitive. I don't have too many problems with the. There's so many things. I don't know. I need to watch it. Let me watch the show, and I'll come back next week and have another view on it because I haven't got around to watching it, and it sounds to me like I should watch it because it sounds quite interesting.
It's not.
It is.
But For me, I just kind of go with, I would like to know what their philosophy is for the UI, like as a team, like a design team. Because like if you go, what's the Aegis design philosophy? They'll go, what's the Anvil design philosophy? You know, what's the web page philosophy? Fuck knows. What's the confuse and duplicate. What's Chris Roberts' philosophy? When it comes to building games, add celebrities. What's you know what I mean? What's the general philosophy behind their UI interface? Like, I'd love to know what it is. So that'd be my question. I'm going to write down these questions for CitizenCon when I meet these guys and say.
Yeah, that's another one, Viking. I stopped. Honestly, I facepalmed so many times watching that. It really
Even
did.
when you put it in temporarily until you get something better for that backdrop, it's like, come on, help me out there. People who watch my stream know that I'm always bitching about that stupid font which is unreadable.
But it looks
I can't
cool,
see
but
shit.
That's right. And let's not read anything just because it looks funky. Well, that's great.
See, that's the
and breathe.
The thing is, the problem that I have is again, it comes back to that Gravlev system. Is they're so adamant to the point of like unable to change their mindset. They're so, and I'm saying Chris here probably because he's ultimately the person that has the final say here. Chris is so adamant in the way that he wants it, which can be a good thing and a bad thing, to the point where we have to go months and months, years even, of saying this is stupid, dude, and then eventually, after all this time, finally go, yeah, do you know what? Actually, you're right. It is a bit stupid. We should change it. You'd be like, dude, we told you that literally after 2 weeks of playing with it. Why did you wait so long?
But like you said,
you know what I mean?
It's like
Why did you wait so long?
Stubborn kind of, and it's
stubborn, very stubborn.
And what I don't get is like you said a little bit earlier is that some things they're happy to fudge, some things they're happy to gamify and say, oh, it's a game, so that's why we're doing it. And then other things, it's like, no, it's got to be like for like in the real world. It's got to be something. It's like, well,
no consistency.
Why?
No consistency.
Like, if it broke the game, then yes, don't do it. But if it's going to help make the game better, if it's clearly making the game better, then do it. Just blend the barriers between. This is not a sim. They've told us that. It's not real life. We know that. So just use some common sense, and sometimes user experience is best. Get what works for user experience.
Cool. That's a good place to leave it on.
Yeah. Goodbye.
I think so. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Wow, we ended up talking for a while. We were going to do an after-hours show, guys, but that's not going to happen now.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely not going to happen.
Kind of got a little bit of an after-hours in
2
a way.
minutes after
Kind of
hours, here we go.
I'm going to have half an hour in my bed.
Thanks for sharing.
So yeah, anyway, guys, I think that probably is a good place to a nice happy note to leave it on. Have we got a happy note? Oh,
well,
the 2 snob fighters are in game.
They don't have quantum jump.
Shh, leave it on a happy note.
You can't get them out of your spaceship, and they can't even spawn them in your spaceship. It's pointless. Pointless.
Happy note. Snob fighters are in the game. Yeah.
They don't even freaking dock. Absolutely pointless spaceship again in game.
Oh, poor Viking. I'm so happy.
I'm sorry, guys. But what we'll say, 3.7 is just around the corner. Yay! Which I'm really.
I've got a happy note.
I'm gonna enjoy.
I've got a happy note. Maybe you might not agree, but subscriber perks. We'll talk a little bit about it next week. But they're giving a full set of clothing for 1 month sub. Who'd have thought? What a fucking good idea. Something they should have done instead of drip feeding one piece of armor every month. So yeah, there you go. Sub for 1 month, you get a full set of outfit. There you go.
Nice.
Done. Happy note. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Bye-bye.
Yay!
Thank you for watching, folks. Catch you same time next week with maybe a little less.
Everyone.
This is what happens when they don't give us content to talk about, by the way. This is not our fault. So yeah.
Sometimes it's good. Last week was positive.
Thanks for sticking with the technical difficulties at the start. This will be going up on YouTube, so you can watch it there if you missed any part of it, or if you want to watch it again for some weird reason, you may do so. Please make sure you go and give everybody in the Asylum stream team a follow. We very much appreciate it. And if you can talk about our Asylum channel, the fact that we're on here, it's a new home for everybody, so it's a little bit, we need to spread the word and let everybody know we're here. And as always, we appreciate you guys supporting us, being here in chat and engaging. It's what we live for. So thanks, guys, and we will see you same time next week. Goodbye.
Cheers, guys.